it was weird because
We're
I went.
both early, so that's perfect. Thank you
Yeah,
so
well, the thing is, I want to make sure is like every time I get on my computer, something usually messes up. So I went on once and I went to here and it got to you and there was no picture of me and it was not giving me an option. So I
Oh,
signed
weird.
and went on again. So I was going to be here, but we got those neat little Savatage things. And I finally figured out exactly how much light I needed to where it didn't cut my head out. Because I had a hat on the last time. It was funny and it was cutting me down like a little ball thing, but
Wow. Okay.
it's so funny.
All
But
right.
yes, I was out and my mom hasn't been doing well. So she
Oh
actually
no.
I take care of her and she has not been home for a month. So I just left her and got home and showered and ran down here to make sure I was ready for you. So I just wanted to be a little early to make sure that everything
Yeah,
was
that's
working.
fine.
Yeah, I hadn't done one of these in a probably about 2 weeks. So
That's
that's
it. Sounds like you're busy.
yeah, well we've been doing we got together and did a little bit of rehearsing and some new photos and like I said, I'm just trying to get everything together at my house in case she can't make it back home here. I have my dog in my house, so I have to get somebody to watch my dog. I have to get somebody to take care of my house if she's not going to be able to come home. She's not in the hospital now. She's in a physical rehab place, but it's still really stressful
Oh
because she
yeah.
should have been home already.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, we're at that age when things start to happen.
yeah, I
So
know. And for me, it's just and my situation's a little bit different than everybody else's since
you're
I
so
made the decision to come here and take care of the house and take care of her. But everybody was like, how is she doing? And she was always fine. I was like, well, she's really not better. She's not worse because she always had trouble walking. But this is the first time where she's definitely worse.
oh,
So
okay. Well, I'm
yeah,
sorry to hear that.
but
Well, I'm happy to see you and talk to you. I don't know if you remember we met at TSO in Pittsburgh. I'm
yeah,
friends with your artist Jenny, so that's
yeah. No, that's
the world.
not
But
too not too long ago for what's left of my brain to remember. So it's actually funny. Nowadays I remember things from a long time ago more than I do from an hour ago. And I don't
yep.
know if that's just your brain being too full or you got way more going on now than you used to. But I eliminate details more than I really would like to.
I noticed that I do the same thing. I remember things from the past.
Yeah.
Um, I could tell you something that happened in 1988. Probably can't tell you what happened last week, but I think sadly maybe that's part of aging too.
Yeah, no. I definitely do. I think that like I said, I don't necessarily think it could be.
Well, you have a whole lot of stuff going on. You're juggling a lot of things
Yeah.
all at once, so that might be part of. You might be overwhelmed.
Yeah, but I also think like when I was a little kid, I had the desire to play like Ghosts and Goblins and all these different video games and remember every path and this where the wall had a key and this and that.
Hmm.
So I was absorbing lots of little information on things that, nowadays I'm lucky if I would make it through Pac-Man. It's like I just think that something about your learn it's either the learned desire or like I said maybe your immediate because think about it when you're 10 you've had 10 years worth of information. I'm 57 years old. I have an extra 47 years of information. So maybe it's like with all the little storage banks filling up, it's kind of something that eliminates where the immediate memory can go because you have so much information.
Yeah,
Yeah, so who really
maybe.
knows? Who knows? I don't know. All I know is that I definitely don't have the same desires I did to play video
Right?
games. And I
I was
have
never
all the
very good
games
at
still.
that.
I have like a really good PlayStation, and I just don't turn them on.
I
I
don't think
think,
you really have time for that, do you?
yeah, it's you know what, you actually don't. And I think that's the thing too that, I always say to people that the days are getting shorter, but it's because I've got so much more to do. Even when I first moved back home to the house where my family has, where I am now, that was probably 2007. And even
Wow.
at that point, I didn't have a ton of stuff going on. then, and now as I took over the responsibilities of the house and then the responsibilities of, my music career, then my art career and my other stuff. And I
Yeah,
think it's,
you have quite a bit going on. It's like you're a very driven
yeah.
person. Like
And it just
downtime is
keeps, I
not
think
something you have a lot of.
yeah, it keeps climbing on top of things. So,
I'm sure. I'm sure. So
yeah.
let's talk a little bit about, in addition to your playing guitar with TSO, which is wonderful that you play with Savatage and that you all are gearing up to do this tour in South America. So when all this started to come about and you realized that you were going to play as Savatage again and go out there, I mean, like, what did that feel like? What was your reaction?
You know what? The funniest thing was I refused to ever let myself feel like it ended. So we stopped touring in 2002. We played that show in 2015, but to me, I was just always ready for that news. As much as people kept asking me when, I couldn't really tell them. I would just tell them that when it happened, I knew I would be there. And, Sabotage was such an important part of my career and my life
Right.
that, I was just missing that. It was kind of like a family reunion that you went to every year of your life or every 6 months that all of a sudden you stop going to and you're waiting to get back to it. And everything feels kind of normal, even with, when the stress hits from life nowadays. With Sabotage being a part of my life, it kind of creates this balance level that makes everything kind of float along
Yeah.
in consistency. It's like I feel like everything's, this is where everything should be, and I'm not really looking for anything to fix that part of me, like that missing piece that was Sabotage. So when the challenges and other things hit me, I look at them, I focus on them, I get them out of the way, and then I go back to being really happy that Savatage is playing. And
Wow.
it's way different because when you didn't have that, and I would wait for shows and tours, and you would have these announcements come online, and you would see these festivals, and all your friends and their bands were playing
Yeah.
these festivals, and you're going, damn, I miss that. I miss
Yeah.
being on the road, and seeing the old European architecture and going to places I've never been and seeing the fans and getting on stage with those guys and just seeing those people and playing that music. It was
Yeah.
like I envied my friends for doing exactly what it was that we'd done every year. And now, like I said, it just feels like it's going to be back to normal again. When I go to these shows this time, I'll be there and see my friends in like Priest and these in Queensryche, and we'll be playing instead of me watching them and them going, "Say,
Yeah.
when's Sabotage gonna play?"
Hey.
There he
Well,
is,
this is slightly a surprise because I thought I was
Zachary.
just interviewing Chris, but I'm happy to have you anyhow, Zach.
Can't believe I popped in there. It was
Well, he
magic.
did. Well, I was actually Zach. I had went to see my mom and I hadn't had this computer on in like a week. So I turned it on a little early, and when I did, it wasn't showing any video image.
Yeah.
So I signed out and went again, and she was there. So I've been here for a little bit, like 5 minutes, 6 minutes already. So
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I tried you going with there was no meeting passcode, that
Oh,
we
that's
got
weird.
sent, so I didn't have the passcode. If you
So
can
did he
go
send
into
your PR
meetings,
guy send it to all of you guys?
nah, he just sent a link. So
I
if you
think
have to use the
I
link
think
and it
it's just
goes
me
and
and
joins
Zach,
you.
Trey, with
Okay.
you.
If you
Yeah.
get a passcode, you can go into Zoom,
Yeah.
have yourself signed in already,
Yeah.
and then you can go to join meeting.
Oh,
But
I thought there was a
you
passcode,
got
huh?
to have
Sorry
that
about
11
that.
digit, yeah, passcode. And then if you do it that way, you can go the back way. But I had to go the
I
front
just
way.
had
And
premature resumulation.
yeah, I thought I was
Oh
getting
my
shot
God.
into like outer space.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just
You
jump
better
right
get
in then.
going. Me and him together, I warn you right now, you never really get an interview done. So
Yeah.
good luck.
It's like it's like Sar and Caffrey, Caffism.
Okay.
He's Sar
Well,
and I'm
no, that's
Caffism.
fine, and
You
it's
put us
no big
together,
deal.
we're Zach Carchasm. I don't know. It's if we together reunite into this ball of silliness that just goes on
Yeah.
for
Well,
a
that's all
long
right.
time.
I'm okay
What if
with
there
that. I've
was
been doing this a long time, so as long as nobody dies or anything, it'll be fine.
As long as it doesn't become a sarcophagus.
That's it. Sarcophagus.
I can see
And
how this is
then,
going to go now.
Uh,
Okay, Zach, so I can ask you the same question then. I was asking Chris, like when you guys found out that you were actually going to start touring again and doing all these tours in South America and Europe, like what was your reaction, like knowing that Savatage was going to be, back together
well,
and playing together again?
I mean, we've been talking about it for a long time, so we weren't really sure if, things were going to happen in the back end and the legal end and, just everything that needed to come together. So I was a little bit surprised, because it's been a long time. So you
Yeah,
begin to wonder, but I knew that we've got a very stable lineup. We've had the same lineup forever and ever. We're still here. So I was like, if you're going to do it, would I have liked to do it 10 years ago? Yes. Um, but you know what? You got to do it when it's time,
right.
So I
Yeah.
was super excited about it, and we got so much good music. I mean, the reason that I got started in the music business in the first place was because of live rock, and to be able to take this music back live again and create that magic. I mean, that's the big deal. The first concert I ever saw was 10 years old. It was Kiss on the Destroyer tour. So I was hooked immediately, because it was all about
Yeah.
live rock. I still remember it very well. Huge impact. So when I think about, what is the main reason that I'm so happy about, Savatage going out there, bringing the music back out live to
Um,
everybody. It's that live, and it sounds great. We do it, so well, and just being able to have the chance to do that,
the
bring Savatage
chance.
music back out live to everybody in a big way. That's the main impetus right now is the live show. So yeah,
absolutely.
that's really the big deal for me. I'm super excited. I got started because of live rock and Kiss,
Yeah.
so this is it.
It's funny he says it because I saw Kiss a year later and I was 11 for the Dynasty tour and it was
Oh,
Kiss and
wow.
Priest. And I had no idea who Judas Priest was, when they were opening for Kiss that year. And I just remember seeing the Flying V and hearing the riff from Victim of Changes. And the next day I went and bought Unleashed in the East. And I was like,
That
my life changed after that one too. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
you were locked in.
yeah, Zachary.
Exactly. That's another thing I got to tell you. There is no
Oh my
exactly
gosh.
around here. It's
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Well, I will say I was watching the little clip on Chris's Instagram where you guys, introduce each other, yourselves, and then at the end, Chris says, "And we're back," and I was like, and I like got goosebumps. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, so excited!" So I'm pretty
Well,
excited.
he was trying to do it, but he kept saying, and we're Zach. And I mean, just after 10 times, I said, Chris, you better say
Forget it, I'll do it.
it.
We can't all be Zach. It's the feedback
Right.
I
Well,
got.
I think the world only needs
We're
one of that.
Savatage and we're Zach.
This is not Zacatage.
Oh my God, you're so funny. Okay. I'm like completely
Too
discombobulated.
much coffee, man.
Oh my God, that's all right.
I haven't had enough yet.
All right, let me ask you guys both the same. I'll ask you both the same question. So, you know, at what point in your life, maybe it was the Kiss show, that you decided, hey, I'm going to be a musician and this is something I want to do.
Well, for me, it was the only thing I ever wanted to do. And I'm really fortunate that I wound up being successful in what I did because I had no backup plan.
Right?
I was 5, I started listening to Beatle records, maybe 4. And then when I was in the first grade, I sang Help for show and tell. And then I just,
Did you really?
yeah, I said, this is what I'm going to do. So I really had absolutely no other plan.
Yeah.
So that kind of, it all worked out in a good way, but I don't even know. I think about it now. I'm like, what the heck would I have done? I probably would have like invented a computer program and been a multi-billionaire by now. But instead, I'm doing what I chose to do, which was go out and play guitar and have fun. But it was a little different. I think it was that never-ending fear of a day job. I just didn't want to have a regular life.
Yeah. I don't think
I was
anybody
like,
really
I'm
wants.
gonna be this, and that's it.
I think, well, that's a good answer. I mean, hey, obviously it worked out for you. What about you, Zach?
Well, I got to say, I'm glad nobody told me that I had to get a day job at 5 years old. I want to start there. I did not.
Yeah, they're
I
like,
did
I'm
not
not
want a
doing that.
backup plan at that time. No. Well, it's funny because when I was in fifth grade, one of my best friends, his brother, he had two brothers in high school. One played guitar, one played bass, and my good friend David here in elementary school, played guitar. And I started taking drum lessons from a good friend of his big brother.
Oh,
Probably about a
wow.
year before that at 9. I started playing drums at 9 and
I
started
started
singing.
playing drums too, and I wanted to make music, so I stopped.
I know, here comes the drummer joke. So, all right. So anyway, I had been going a little bit and singing because, we didn't really have a singer that could seem to, hold the tune as good as I. So I was, singing from behind the kid all the time. But just a little bit, and then his big brother Chuck said, "Guess what? I heard about that talent show that's going on at that Saluda River Elementary School. So you guys are in it." And I went, "We are?" And my brother was like, "No," because my brother played bass. So he told my brother, "You're going to play bass." He said, "Zach, you're going to sing and play drums, and David, you're going to be on guitar. And we're going to learn 3 songs, and we're going to go into the dang the talent show." And we're gonna and I'm like, all right, because you got this high school dude telling us, and we're 10 or whatever, 10 and 9, like, okay, like we're not
Sure,
gonna put
you
up much of
say.
an argument. So he said you're gonna learn Lion Eyes by the Eagles, Brick House by the Commodores, and Proud Mary by CCR.
Well, that's kind of
And we played
diverse.
those 3 songs, and we won the talent show.
No
Is there
way.
is there a video of that?
Oh, no, there's audio, and I think that I have a cassette. It's just a cassette that my grandfather recorded, and everybody used to
No
laugh
way.
at me because
Aw.
my voice sounded like really little, like Michael Jackson when he was like really young. So I remember hearing it, and then my grandfather just played this one part over and over and laughed at it, which was, "This one goes out to all y'all brick houses out there."
Oh my
I'm
God.
afraid not most of it had not reached puberty yet, and that was a hell of a thing to say. So he just kept rewinding that part and listening to it and laughing, and then he'd laugh for hours over that for some reason about, yes, that's right. There probably weren't that many brick houses,
In
so to
elementary.
speak, out there in the audience being 10 and lower. But we won, and that was and then the fact that we won, my mom said, "You know what? You deserve something. I'm gonna give you tickets to that for the Kiss concert." So
Oh,
it kind of
I'll
all
think that
happened at
word.
one time. And that's kind of how I got the bug. And then, you know, and just kind of luckily, like Chris said, I mean, we didn't have to do too many other things in life.
You luckily succeeded, so here you are.
I
Yeah,
was I was in like neighborhood child labor at the time though, because I had like 6 lawns I cut when I was 10 and leaves, and I had 2 newspaper routes, and then when I was
Yeah.
14 I was working full time at a gas station. So to buy my
That was
amp,
our generation, though.
my family didn't have a lot of money, so I bought my own amps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I
But I
was
think that was our
at that point in
generation,
time
though,
I
too.
was working full time very young, and it was like what Zach was saying. Yeah, I wasn't working at 5, but it's like, around like 10 I started doing a lot
Yeah.
of different, yard work and the newspaper routes. And then when I was 14, I was going to high school and then going to freaking a gas station and working 40 hours
And
a
that's
week.
probably why you wanted to be a musician, because you're like, this day job stuff is just
Yeah, I was like, I gotta get it. And then, but we think back then when we played, we were funny back then. Like I had 3 Marshall stacks by the time I was 16. And you couldn't go play a show unless you had all these things on the
oh my
stage.
goodness.
We were like losing all the money I made at work, renting trucks and getting people to help us and carrying them up and down basement stairs at
Oh
5 in the
wow.
morning. There's nothing worse than carrying a SVT bass cabinet up and down stairs at 4 a.m. when you
Oh,
can't have playing a
yeah, the
club
load in and
show.
load outs,
But we
man. I
like
mean,
we had to have
yeah.
that big giant show, and now it's like we travel around with these little digital amps that weigh like 10 pounds, and it's like,
Yeah, it's different now. It's changed.
yeah.
So wow. All right, can we talk a little bit about like the studio, Night Castle Studio? I guess that's the studio that Savatage began recording at. You guys are going to go back to there. Is that what's happening? Or
well,
no?
we've done 2 or 3 records there, and even more, maybe, even before my time. But the Morris Brothers, I mean, that studio actually belongs to TSO now. I mean,
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't
yeah,
know that. Wow.
Paul O'Neill bought the studio before his passing,
Oh yeah.
and it was about 2 or 3 years before that. he said, you know what? All these big studios in the United States are going by the way, they're going by the wayside because of all the new, technology and how to record. Everybody can record at home, send the track somewhere, just have a record mixed. So he said, the big full service studios are going, extinct. I want to save one. I want it. So I'm going to buy Morrisound. And so we were like, wow. So that's where the rest of the TSO albums have been recorded and stuff like that. And we
Wow, that's
rehearsed there,
amazing.
for Savatage, we rehearsed there. It's got a huge big room A, and it's got a smaller room B and all kind of MIDI rooms and stuff in there. So we still, luckily, we have that studio at our disposal, thanks to Paul.
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
it's one of the nicest studio facilities that I've ever been in, and it has a great atmosphere, and the history of the death metal music and the Tampa, Florida heavy metal scene was all born really a lot in that studio with the Morris brothers and like Chuck from Death, and the Savatage guys. They went in, before me and Johnny Lee were in the band, and they actually recorded, their Sirens and Dungeons together, and then they were separated into those records. But that stuff was done there, and it was just a great history in that studio. I went in there with John and did the Dr. Butcher record, and then when Zach was doing his
Oh,
Circle to Circle, I got to go back, and it just has a really awesome feeling of making a record. Like Zach said, where people nowadays, it's like they go and this person does here, this person does that there. It's like it has that feeling of when you're showing up there, you're there to create music together, and it's a really positive place.
Very positive. That's a great
very
vibe.
cool.
I mean, we're using it right now. Like we're working off the vibe, man, for these Savatage rehearsals and
Oh,
stuff.
how
So,
exciting.
so it really feels good. The brotherhood and everything. The whole thing is really amazing. The getting the brotherhood of the band back together and all. We're
And
great
the
friends,
vibe and everything.
and
Yeah,
you can
that's
feel
totally
it as
cool.
soon. I don't know what it is. I think that studio has a vibe of all the great artists and all the great, death metal, whatever started with death metal rock bands for decades that came in there and recorded, and it has a good vibe because it was always a great friendly vibe because of the Morris brothers. And then the fact that it got passed down to sort of it got passed down to TSO, which is amazing. But you can feel the good vibe when you walk in, so it
Oh,
really
that's
helps.
really
It's a
cool.
good work vibe. If you're not in that great a mood, you walk in and it kind of puts you in a good place.
Yeah, and Paul fell in love with that studio with the first time he had went in there really to work with Sabotage with Zach's first record on Edge of Thorns, and before that the Mountain King and Streets records were done in New York City at Record Plant, and then even after Edge of Thorns we went back to Manhattan and worked on a bunch of the end of the Dead Winter Dead record and the Wake of
Love
Magellan
that.
record and the Poets record there and the first TSO records were all done up there. I mean, Handful and Edge of Thorns were done down with Paul there, but he fell in love with that place. It's just like I said, it has that vibe. And Paul always was really happy because it has like a metal open security gate. We'd pull up and Paul would be like, "This is awesome." He just liked it because you felt like you were going into your little fortress,
Yeah.
and it was always fun to work with Paul in the larger studios because he was a big, you know, spend all day, order the takeout food, just have the whole day to day from beginning to end. And that's because Paul was, you know, born and raised in the generation of Aerosmith and those classic bands
Yeah,
that,
yes.
were making way more, as much money on records as they were live. So there was a lot of money that went into the making of those records, and that whole, experience back then used to be a lot more grandeur of being in
Yeah.
the studio doing a record as compared to now.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't get too many things nowadays where, hey, am I, or what's the budget looking like? I mean, are we on budget or how are we doing here? And Paul says, don't you ever worry about the budget.
Oh, nice.
The
It
the
was funny
record
when we
the
were
record
doing
is
records.
done when the record gets done.
We would do records in the city with Paul, and even if I wasn't playing any tracks of the day we were there, I would just take the subway and show up because I knew Paul was going to be ordering some takeout from somewhere different, and he'd be like, "Here, guy, here's the sushi menu. Here, guy, here's a steakhouse." So I would just like show up to
Yeah,
get the
for the
food, and then
food.
I'd take a taxi cab back with him to where I lived later on in the night, and I was there to latch on to the food. So,
Isn't that normal for musicians to kind of be hungry all the time anyhow?
yeah.
It helps. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to
right.
refuel,
Look,
after.
in New York City, there's endless food to order, so it was
Oh
always a
yeah.
lot of fun.
All night long too.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you this question. What has music slash playing out live done for each of you? Like, what has it done? Like one thing for your life that's been super positive? Is there something that stands out?
All right. Well, especially playing live with Savatage, I mean, it taught me that, especially with our music, that when I become like the medium of bringing the music to hopefully the heart of the people,
Right.
I discovered that I got a lot of it's a real gift to be able to bring that music to the crowd. Let's put it that way, because
Oh,
man, I learned that the
absolutely.
emotion, you look at people out there, if I look at too many people for too long, I'm going to start crying myself. For some reason, our music makes men and women, men and grown women cry.
Yeah.
Um, so I know that certain songs, I have to kind of like gulp it down a little, because if I start getting too wrapped up in what I'm seeing out there, man, I'm going to start thinking about, my how it is personally for me too,
Yeah.
and then you gotta sort of be tough there. But and I'm an old softy anyway. Chris will tell you that,
Aw,
I'll probably be the first one to cry at a movie or something like
right.
that. Um, but no, it's just I'm so thankful for what I've learned, performing this music and seeing the effect it has on people, and that's why I'm so excited about bringing it back live to everybody right now.
Yeah, it's super
Um,
exciting. I'm excited. You don't even have any US dates yet, and I'm already excited.
yeah,
I
and it's
I
just
I feel the same way that Zach does about getting in front of the people, and also for me, like as I mentioned before, being somebody that came from a family that really didn't have a lot. I built bicycles out of dumpsters and had all my brother's old clothes, and if I
Hmm.
got straight A's on my report card, I got to go to McDonald's, and maybe once a year, my family would go to a place and we would get hamburgers out somewhere. So for me, it's just weird. Every time I travel and I go out to eat somewhere and somebody has food for me in a band, or I go to a hotel, or it's just like, for me, it's just this weird feeling of being blessed to be able to
Mhm.
get stuff
Oh,
that you never were able to have. I never went on
right.
vacations
Like
when
you
I was a
appreciate
kid.
it more.
Yeah, I never flew in an airplane till music. When I was 18,
Oh,
when
wow.
I started working with Paul when I was 17, but I was 18, I flew to California to play some shows with the band Heaven. It was the first time I was ever on an airplane, and
Wow.
then I went to Disneyland, and I'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what that world was like. So when I get to travel and see that, along with the fact that I'm doing what I wanted to do from day one, I just feel really privileged every single day that I'm able to, you know, have that stuff in my life that I wasn't able to have when I was a kid.
Right. Well, I think that what Zach was talking about and what you were saying about, people connecting with the music. I mean, that's, why I do what I do. Even it's like, I'm a huge music lover and I love live music more than, I mean, I love the recorded version. That's great. But I love the connection, and it's even better if after the show, I know all the lyrics. I get to meet somebody from the band. Like I'm over the moon for like months or a year. Like it's just so connecting emotionally. I think music connects people everywhere,
Yeah, I realized that way more working with Paul than I think I would have with a lot of other different people. When I went to Europe for the second time with Sabotage for Dead Winter Dead, after that particular story came out, I think, that my first time I went, Sabotage had just gotten off of Mountain King and they just started working with Paul. And then, songs like Believe and the stories of Streets and Dead Winter Dead weren't out yet. And I saw people on that Dead Winter Dead tour that were traveling from all over the world to see Sabotage, kids from Egypt, kids from Brazil. And they would come
wow.
up to me and tell me that, Savage's music saved their life. And they would mention
Wow,
particular
that's heavy.
songs. And Paul would always tell me that anybody could write a song about a car or a girl, but it's a real special thing to be able to write lyrics that change people's lives, and that's what he had
Yeah.
done with songs like Believe and those messages. And I think that that's the thing with Savatage's music that kind of connects us to people. I think in ways similar to the way Freddie Mercury did with a lot of the Queen stuff, where
Oh my gosh, love
they
Queen.
gather around the emotions in the individual songs.
Mhm.
More. There's great music in tons of bands, but there's very few people that have really tied everybody together exactly the same way that
True,
Paul did.
true.
You're right, Chris. I hear from people all the time, whether it's on Messenger or wherever, people randomly write to me and I get back to as many people as I can, but it's a lot,
I'm sure it's a
but I
lot.
hear all the time where if it wasn't for if it wasn't for Edge of Thorn, where they'll name off a Sabotage
Yeah,
record, or, if it wasn't for your music, I don't know how I would have gotten through this, something like the loss of my father or the loss of my, or somebody in the family, or,
sure.
you really brought me through a lot of hard times. I don't even know what would have happened if I didn't have the music of Sabotage. You hear this and it's like, it's really like staggering, like, you know, and you feel good about being able to be part of something like that, bringing people through a tough
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah,
And
Paul had a gift of making these lyrics human. If you know what I mean about that,
Mhm.
where he would write stories if they weren't about actual human beings and situations that we're experiencing in our lives, or about human beings and experiences that we could have. And he wasn't, taking past fictional or non-fictional characters and writing stories and pieces like that. He was creating, real human life stories, whether or not he was taking ones that people he knew had experienced similar types with streets. Paul had worked with a tremendous number of different rock and roll stars that had super highs and super lows, or to something like Dead Winter Dead, where, Paul's love for history and his knowledge of current events and wars just really gripped him into that. And the
Mhm.
same thing he did with the TSO records, were him living in New York City for all those decades and being around just what was the heart and soul of New York City at Christmas time and wintertime, with the giving and that kind of thing. It's like, I think that sort of thing is where he was different than most of the lyricists you're going to run into, because
Mhm.
he reached for real,
mhm.
right straight with you. And a lot of times people can do that, but they write it about themselves.
All right.
Paul had a way of being real and writing about people that he knew, and it was different kind of thing that way, when he would do that. So it was definitely a gift. It changed the way I wrote lyrics and the way I wrote songs, for sure, because I didn't really pay attention to the lyrics the same way when I was a little kid as I did once, I was in with him. A lot of times I James Brown my way through all the old records. I didn't know what the lyrics were for a lot of those things. You had no idea. You just make up whatever you thought it was.
Well,
He
that's
did that
very
too for
cool.
me, man, too, when it came to, you know, lyrics and stuff like that for, like Circle to Circle or whoever. I mean, yeah, you realize how good he is when you go to work on it too. Like how amazing he was. It's like, you can work on that for years and years and years and you'll never, you really reach that level. It's something it's a gift
For
that he
sure.
had.
Yeah. I think a lot of writers and musicians do have a gift, and that's how you're able to connect and, move your audiences and have some emotional connection. And I think that pretty much everybody's really looking for some kind of emotional connection, and music is kind of like uniter. So,
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I
Yeah.
agree with you. Like I said, but I think with Paul being somebody that was writing songs for other people to sing, and going in as a producer, to his ability to draw the emotions of what he wrote into the lyrics out into the recordings too
mhm,
was really special, because
Amazing.
he was hearing those words being not only just sung, but sung in a certain way.
mhm.
It's just the art of that, because he was producer writer, and that combination of him was something that was really unique and very special.
Well, let me ask you this, since I know you guys are so busy. when you're not touring or rehearsing or recording, what do you like? I mean, I know you do a million things, Chris, but what is there anything that you do to relax, or do you have any other hobbies? Like, or do you just are you so consumed by music that you just like to, practice all the time or learn new things?
Um, I don't know. I started running like half marathons, so I kind of like train. I just run a lot now.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
Yeah.
but I did a Disneyland. They did the first one for like 7 or 8 years. They hadn't done one, and then last year they did this um, Halloween weekend half marathon thing.
Yeah.
So I went and ran that and did pretty well. So I'm going to do another one. I'll do it again this year.
Oh.
But then after that, I'll see how it goes. I might just keep it to shorter stuff. But that seems to be it. I mean, I used to play like tennis all the time. Then I got this pickleball book.
Oh yeah,
So
pickleball's
I'm
like
out
a
there
huge
playing
thing
pickleball
now.
now because pickleball is it's such a good racket sport and it's very popular and the popularity soared. Everybody plays it now. They got tournaments on TV where everybody from every walk of life. I'm waiting to see the heavy metal pickleball tournament. That's what I'm waiting. That'll be the next thing you see. James Hetfield plays Chris Caffrey in
I have
pickleball,
to
but
admit I've never played pickleball, so I would probably lose. But
it's not
I'm sure
hard.
you could practice.
yeah.
I think you could
Yeah,
probably
it's
sell
like
tickets to that.
they
Yeah,
say it
I used to run a lot every day, but my left ankle is really after about a half a
he
mile
still runs.
it starts to get painful. Well, I do a lot, but I stay busy.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
really
you do.
enjoy. I like watching. I live in a place that has four seasons, so I enjoy watching things that I planted 30 years ago grow
Mhm.
and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I'm a big nature person. I like gardening. I mean, I have a partner in a hot sauce company, but I do like the glass art stuff and music stuff. I think the thing that I did notice though, and I don't want to hold it against anything else that I was doing musically, even my own stuff. Having Savatage back has made me want to practice again. And I
Oh,
don't
cool.
know if it was that missing element of having something that I was that excited to do
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
what it is, but I play guitar all the time now, like I used to when I was in my 20s, when I really wanted to try to prove that I could, get into the position of
Hmm.
carrying on the legacy of what Chris did back then. I used to play constantly, and I think that excitement's back when I pick up the guitar,
Oh,
and it
that's
wasn't like
great.
it had left, but sometimes I would just something else would come up to do. You would put the guitar down and go do something else, and I've noticed now that the guitar is getting priority to a lot of things. I have my studio where I'm sitting right now, but when I go upstairs and I have my TV in the living room, I have a little battery operated amp on the coffee table with a little
Hmm.
Bluetooth speaker and a wireless for my guitar, and I'll sit there and watch TV and do what I'm doing, and I'll grab the guitar and play for 10 minutes and go move to the next thing. And so it's definitely taking a place back into my life where it should have been. And I notice as I'm playing more that my guitar playing is definitely feeling what I'm doing to it, and it's all the years of the experience I had are getting this additional practicing, and
Hmm.
it's making my guitar playing different than it's been. I sound like an older, pretty cooler version of myself, which I like. So
Oh,
it's
cool.
good. Yeah.
I
Very
can
cool.
attest to that. Sounds amazing. He sends me stuff all the
Aw.
time. Yeah, it's like play. He'll send me a lead or a song or two or here or there and stuff like that. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it was fun because we got we're going through lists of songs that we're doing for the headline sets and other sets, and you get them, and people are like, make sure these are the songs you need to learn. I'm like, I know all these songs. It's like, I don't need to learn these songs.
I'm prepared. Okay, I have just a
Yeah.
couple more questions for you guys. Okay, here's one from one of your fans, our friend Chuck. He wants to know if you, either one of you or both of you, if you could have been a member of any other band throughout your career, who would that be? What band would that
Dio.
be?
Ha.
You say Dio?
Geo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always wanted to do a record with Ronnie, and he had known that. I mean, we'd
Yeah.
spoken a bunch of times about it. I actually, when he took Rowan Robertson in the band, I was one of the top like three people that were in line for that because Savatage had played with him on the Mountain King tour, and I was only
Mhm.
19 then, but I did a demo for him, and we stayed close, and then TSO had started, but we'd always spoken about it, and even his personal assistant Steve Magnardi, when I'd done Ripper Owens' tour opening for Heaven and Hell, he said, Ronnie came up to him and said, "Man, I really got to do this record with Chris one day," and it was something that I've always thought was going to be able to happen. And I
Yeah.
really knew that,
Aw.
because that was kind of like my wheel well. I think I would have written a really cool Dio album, and I really wanted a
Oh
chance to
yeah.
be
That would have
able
been cool, huh?
to play for him. But I think that, even though that's an individual, I think I would pick that one.
What about you, Zach?
With singers, it's kind of hard because you don't know how your voice fits the mold of,
That's true.
different bands you want to fantasize about, being the lead vocal of. Um, I I always thought like Maiden was a big one that stuck out in my mind. That's a hugely challenging gig, and I just love the songs and stuff. But what's funny is I wound up in the one that I had actually what used to go in the house where I grew up and go in the garage out there to have a little reverb, and I used to shut the door and put on tunes and sing to them when I was
Oh.
like in high school and stuff. And one of the bands was Savatage that I used to put on. Went, wow, that'd be kind of neat to sing with that band. So I used to like fantasize about singing for Savatage, and then all of a sudden, you meet some
Yeah.
people somewhere, living in LA, like,
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
then
kind
before
of a
you know it.
self-fulfilling prophecy since it
Yeah,
came to
it was
be.
one of the bands I was putting on stuff like White Snake and Queensryche, which is
Yeah.
almost like impossible back then to sing to. And then Maiden and Vandenberg and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I think at the time that I remember, and then Sabotage, and then I would just have it
Wow.
on rotation to sing what came up, and I'd struggle and everything because you don't know what you're doing and all that stuff. But you got to do something. So after all the years playing drums, I was just trying to say, man, what would it be like to come out and try to be a front man? So, but Sabotage is one of those that I put on and went, wow, you know what? That is really neat. It would be kind of really cool to sing with a band with them one day, And
Yeah.
you know what? I always tell everybody, dare to think, dare to say what if,
Yeah.
because
Right.
guess what? You might end up being the singer of that band, and that was
Yeah,
my
I had a
story.
couple situations like run past me through the years, or even things like when Savatage was touring with Priest, and I know KK was, sometimes he was, wasn't sure how much longer he would look at me and go, "When I retire, I want you to take my place," and I would always be like, "Wow, that would be cool," because I just like, very similar to what Faulkner did. Richie came in there and does a really good justice to everything that band does, but I think
Mhm.
Richie really covers both guitar players and brings that band to a really cool level. But there was a time when Sabotage had just played the Gutter tour. I got a phone call from the management of UFO,
Oh,
and
wow.
they were and Phil. I think Phil was on the phone at the same time, and they had said that they thought that I reminded them when they saw me, because they saw me play in LA. They thought I reminded them of a ghost of the really young Michael Schenker.
Oh,
I
wow.
had the
That's
blonde
a big
hair and the
compliment.
V. They were playing, and they wanted me to go out to LA on audition, and I was doing my own band. I actually passed on going and to do that, but I at that point, I think everything happens for a reason. I think my paths wouldn't have reenacted, and I wouldn't have got together with things and gotten back with John for Butcher, and then wound up back in Sabotage. So I think everything
Oh,
had its reasons, but there's
I
there's been
believe
some
that's
there's been
important.
some interesting situations that have definitely come up. But like I said, if there was one person, I always really did want to do something with Dio.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. Well, is there anything else you would like to say, like to give advice to someone who wants to be a musician or be a guitarist or singer or whatever? Like, what would you say to someone starting out today? Like, what advice would you give them?
I would say imagine yourself where you want to be. It's a very important step to getting there.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to think about and imagine in your head where you want to be, whether it's singing for a favorite band in the garage, like I happen to do, or um, just any instrument you play. Do take some time to get a mental picture of what you want to do, whether that's you back there on the kit looking out at the crowd, with a particular band in mind of dudes standing sort of stage left, stage right, stage center in front of you? What kind of crowd size do you could you imagine? So start small. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would tell everybody to, take a snapshot, a mental snapshot of where you want to be. It's important because if you're going to get somewhere, you kind of have to picture yourself making it to that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, first off, like he did say, you really have to pick goals and try to meet them, and that a lot of that has to do with where you want to be. But you also got to realize something with music, and it's funny because it kind of works this way with the hot sauce business too. You're going to run into the critics, and you're going to run into the business side of music, and you have to be able to handle that side of this business. And it's not a normal business at all. I always tell people, you were told and taught that one plus one is two. In the music business, somebody's going to tell you it's three, and you're going to have to smile and say you're right. And as much as you know they're not right, you have to have that certain amount of character in you to be able to take that hit, brush it off, figure out why that person was saying that and whatever the case may be, and then try to improve it so you don't hear that again, or do what you need to do, or avoid that piece of business or that piece of whatever. But there's a lot of ups and downs. It's got crazy high highs and really low lows. I mean, and with the internet going on, it makes it worse, because when you are doing something, it's awesome. When you're not, you get to see everybody else doing it. Like I mentioned before, when you saw, when I saw Savatage not playing these festivals and how many of my friends that were, so you just got to try to stay grounded, and just try to avoid the demons if you can, because that nowadays the world is too small, and you might blow a lot of really good opportunities for things that we were able to get away with when I was a kid. You do something really stupid and people would forget about it, but nowadays it's like,
The internet is forever.
You're going to be remembered for everything. Right. So, yeah, you have to be smart, stay grounded, and like Zach said, set goals, and one plus one is three.
Yeah, I've heard about producers that say, to guitar players, what color is this sound that they got? That's blue. No, that's brown.
Oh, wow.
Then you have to what? But that's the kind of stuff that like Chris said, that's the kind of stuff you deal with.
I mean, you look at
Zach, have a brown sound.
Look at your reviews. You look at your reviews of your records, and one guy could give it 10 out of 10, and then the next guy could be this is the biggest piece of garbage I've ever heard. And
you gotta keep your blinders on.
It goes like this, that
there's a lot of noise on the internet too.
And that same thing, like I said, happens with the hot sauce thing, because everybody's got a different taste bud, so everybody likes certain things differently, and everybody likes music differently. And that's the same kind of thing. I mean, we're the artists, you create art. It's like when I see people that do paintings, a lot of times the things that are recognized as the greatest art are the ones that are the most obviously perfect. But some of the greatest artwork, the ones that come alive, years later or 100 years later, are the ones that were masterpieces, and you didn't even realize it till the 10 different photos that were painted by this guy, and it's like, wait a second, he was doing something different here. And that's the way it is with music. I always think that and I think that was a lot of what had happened with Savatage too, because when we were out there, we never really paid attention to who we were, what we were doing. But we had no idea that 30 years later, people would be listening to this music more than they did then. It's like, I think that it has legs. A lot of music and a lot of bands that they, one-hit wonders and things like that may disappear, and people may hear their song. It's like Savatage, we're sitting there trying to put together set lists, and it's almost impossible. And it's not, like we had 200 hits. We just have hundreds of really cool songs, and I think that form of art that was made by the Olivas and Savatage and Paul, I think it's growing like that kind of art where everybody hears it and they're like, well, Savatage was effing cool, and it's
Yeah,
that kind of thing where we were something that was different. We might not have been exactly what
definitely.
MTV wanted at the time. We might not have been exactly what the record companies wanted at the time, but now when people listen to it, it's like the elements of that music are exactly what people want out of the music.
Yeah, well,
So,
people want it now, that's for sure. And I mean, people are super excited about it, and I see all kinds of buzz about it everywhere. And
Still play.
I've talked to people just like locally out, I live outside of Pittsburgh, and there's a lot of metalheads here, and people that aren't even into metal but love Savatage and love Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So, I mean, I think that I'd be really excited if you guys could do some US dates. I know you guys are touring like into June, it looks like, at least from what I can remember. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of interest. I think that you guys are going to be pretty busy.
Thank
yeah,
you.
we really are focusing right now on just getting ourselves ready for the first ones and being
Yeah.
there. And, I know us in the band, we're just also happy and excited to be playing that. I'm not really paying attention to what's happening next year right now. I'm really
Oh yeah,
focused
of course
on
not.
I don't want to suck on April 19th. So it's like that's where my
Nobody's
head
gonna
is at.
suck. It's
I have
okay.
like tunnel vision towards
Yeah.
making sure you do not stink in South America. So
Nobody's gonna
it's like
stink. Well, I saw the
I want
bunch
to
of
play
shows
everywhere,
sold
but
out,
until then,
and a bunch of your shows are already sold out. So I mean, that's got to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah,
yeah, and we're releasing the tickets for the headline show in Sao Paulo on Friday, so it'll be
saw that.
really interesting to see how that goes. I mean, especially since there's over 50,000 tickets sold for the festival we're doing 2 days before it. But
That's insane.
yeah, but
Well,
I
I'm
so
super
I've already seen
excited
it
for
on
you
my
guys.
pages online. Kids are like, "We're going to both. We're going to both." I mean, they've been waiting for us for so long, and
Yeah.
they're not going to feel like they got enough Sabotage in the hour festival set. So,
Oh
they're.
no,
I think a lot of them are going to come and celebrate the music with us in the headline shows too, which is
that
which
sounds
is
cool.
good. Yeah, and I
Well,
was excited too because I saw that there's a Priest and Queensryche show on
what?
the night off in between. So as long
You
as
might
I
have to go to that.
no, yeah,
Well,
just stay out of trouble and get myself home early and
all
Yeah,
right. Maybe you should
yeah,
take a friend just
it
in case.
is so.
need
It's
a
like
he needs a chaperone.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Zach, are you going to do that? You're going to be a chaperone?
I
No,
don't know. So it's
We're
probably
gonna
you
not
don't
good
want
for
that
me
share.
to.
Yeah, the worst
responsibility.
thing would be if we were each other's chaperones.
Yeah, me
That
being
might
the
be a
chaperone
problem.
is not going to help.
Yeah, no, but it's just good. I'm excited. Like I said, when I would
Very
go
excited.
see when I would go see shows or do shows with Doro or the things, and I would see Priest and Queensryche and those guys. I was either playing with Doro or just at the show, and they would always ask me, "Oh, it'd be great to have Savatage playing." And I think just showing up at those shows and seeing the times, the stage times, and going, wait a second, we're playing. It's like, yeah, we're back out there.
Oh,
It's gonna
very
be
cool.
fun.
Very
It's a
cool.
building effort, like we look at everything right now is like you're building, for years and years to
Yeah,
run and see what we can do. So we got to take it one show at a time.
absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for your time. I really super
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thanks for jumping in there, Zach. I didn't even know you were going to be here.
See, I did when I first came there and you started talking. I didn't start to say it because usually you see the other
Yeah,
face of waiting for,
right, right.
But he but
Well,
he
your
put me out.
PR guy
Didn't you
did
see me
not
on the
indicate that
email?
anyone else was coming.
He sent it to me and you, the email for
yeah,
you.
no,
Oh,
I
really?
knew you were coming, and that's why I was waiting for you to show up. But I was almost gonna say to her, "Isn't Zach supposed to be?" I was like, "Wait a second, is there two going on now, and I'm not the wrong
What?
one?" So,
I'd have been like, wait a minute, what? So,
yeah, no, that's
no.
all right. It all worked out well, and
Oh no, it was great. You
thank
guys were
you.
wonderful. Thank you so much. And our show is live tomorrow night, so we're going to play the audio on the show, and then I'll post it, and I'll send all the information to your guy.
Thank you
Awesome,
so much.
Yeah,
awesome.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, and have the best of luck on your tour. And I can't wait to see you guys when you come to the US.
All right, thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
everything.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.